Phil Heath from the 2011 Mr. Olympia when he won the title for the first time versus Flex Wheeler from the 1993 Mr. Olympia when he finished second to Dorian Yates in his first Olympia competition. 18 years passed from 1993 till 2011, yet you will see how defined and symmetrical Flex's physique was and why he finished second to a powerful Dorian in a fierce competition. The front double biceps shows that both have massive and separated biceps. Phil is known for having among the best arms nowadays, and Flex was known for having among the greatest biceps in his era. But I like Flex's biceps more. Flex has the more impressive V-taper with his smaller and more aesthetic waist. Both have separated quads, but Phil's thighs are more massive. Although Phil's pose was good that year, Flex's pose is more impressive with his great biceps, wide lats, and small waist, so he would win this pose. The front lat spread shows their great conditioning with their ripped chest and shoulders. Phil doesn't hit the pose properly, due to his narrow structure and massive arms which overwhelm his lats. Flex hits the pose perfectly, and although he doesn't have wide lats like those of Dorian for example, he still shows them better than Phil does, and would win this pose. The side chest shows that both have ripped chest, shoulders, and tight midsection. Phil has the more rounded and pumped chest, with the bubble shape rounded shoulders and arms, which make him look more dominant. Flex's defined and ripped physique was impressive, but he didn't have the same chest features Phil shows in this pose. Although there are 18 years difference in time between the two contests, Flex's back double biceps is so powerful that he could rival Phil in one of his most powerful poses. They both have ripped arms, shoulders, and traps that perfectly connect with their lats, and I wouldn't be shocked if people rooted for Flex in this pose. Phil might be having the wider lats, but Flex brought a very ripped, shredded, and defined back of incredible symmetry and proportions. Phil, however, has the more ripped glutes and hamstrings. Here is another shot which shows how powerful their back areas were. The symmetry and the proportions they show in this area are truly impressive, but Phil would dominate with his more developed glutes and hamstrings. You can see that Flex was so ripped and conditioned, but Phil has the wider lats and the better conditioned hamstrings, glutes, and the more massive thighs, so he would win this pose. The rear lat spread was one of Flex's least impressive poses, as he couldn't stretch out his right lat in a proper way. Phil, on the other hand, isn't that wide, but still has the density and the symmetry in his lats which Flex lacks. Notice his massive traps which form an X ladder that extend from his neck towards his lower back. Phil also has the better glutes and hamstrings, so he would rightfully win this pose. We have to skip the side triceps because there are no high quality pictures for Flex from that contest. But I think that Phil would win the side triceps because he has among the greatest triceps, maybe next to Rolly Winkler. As for the abs and thighs, it's fair to say that Flex had among the greatest abs in the 90s. And it shows here with the symmetrical ripped abs. Phil didn't have the bloated stomach issues that year, but his abs are not as aesthetic or as complete as Flex's. Phil, however, has the more massive thighs, but Flex's quads are as ripped, with visible striations, so he would win this pose. The most muscular shows that both have great conditioning with the ripped chest, shoulders, and arms. Phil looks more dominant with his more massive and rounded shoulders and arms. His most muscular has always been compared to that of Kevin Levrone, who is widely considered as the one who hits the greatest most muscular from the 90s. Although Flex looks ripped and aesthetic in this pose, Phil would win with his size advantage. This pose is about the most amount of muscularity the contender can show, and Phil would definitely dominate with his massive shoulders and arms. Flex looks more aesthetic, but that won't be enough to defeat Phil, who would win with the size advantage. So Flex would win the front double biceps, the front lat spread, and the abs and thighs, while Phil would win the side chest, the rear lat spread, the side triceps, and the most muscular. The back double biceps would be very close because they both have ripped and complete lats areas, but Phil would score more points with his better hamstrings and glutes. This shows you how powerful Flex was that year. Imagine if he brought the 1993 Olympia physique to the stage in 2011 against Phil. He would definitely be more improved with the enhancements that contenders consume nowadays. I think he would finish second to Phil or might even defeat him and win the title. I've always said that Flex had one of the greatest physiques of all time. All he needed was more work on his hamstrings and thighs. I think results would have changed and Dorian wouldn't have won the title for 6 times in a row. But again, Flex was involved in a terrifying car accident that could have left him paralyzed in 1994. That accident hindered his progress and forced him to finish 8th at the 1995 Mr. Olympia. Despite all these odds, he will always be remembered as one of the 90s greatest bodybuilders ever. Hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching and have a nice one.